524 people were on board a Boeing 747. Suddenly, at a height of 24,000 feet, the tail of the aircraft separated in the air. The flight crew had neither controls nor direction. In the cabin, there was neither oxygen nor air pressure. Yet, how did they keep the aircraft in the air for the next 45 minutes? This is a story of human courage, engineering failure, and a flight in which there was no control. That flight was Japan Air 123. On the 12th of August, 1985, a Boeing 747 of Japan Airlines was standing at Tokyo's Haneda Airport, unloading passengers. 1 hour later, it had to take off for Osaka. Thousands of people travel daily from Tokyo to Osaka. Today, the day was a little busy because, for the Japanese holiday season, Obon people were going to their respective homes. After cleaning of the aircraft at Haneda Airport, 509 passengers and 15 crew members boarded Japan Air 123. For the crew, this was a routine flight. But the passengers did not know that the aircraft was a victim of an old weakness. This Boeing 747 was today's sixth flight. In the cockpit was 49-year-old Captain Masami Takahama, who had 12,000 hours of experience. The first officer was 39-year-old Yutaka Sasaki, whose promotion was about to happen. In the third cockpit crew was 46-year-old flight engineer Hiroshi Fukuda, whose job was to keep an eye on technical issues. Looking at the capability of the cockpit crew, it seemed that the lives of 509 passengers were in safe hands. But is this aircraft also capable of this? This will be known in a short while. At 6:04 p.m., the doors of Japan Air 123 were closed, and the pilot started taxiing the aircraft to runway 15L. The flight from Tokyo to Osaka was going to be only 1 hour and 12 minutes. Preparation would be started. The weather in Tokyo was completely clear, but on this day, many thunderstorms were emerging in Japan. The pilot was instructed to go over the ocean. Now on runway 15L, Japan Air 123 was completely ready for takeoff. At 6:12, after getting permission from the control tower, the pilot moved the aircraft's thrust levers up and successfully took off. Till here, whatever happened was completely normal. But exactly 12 minutes after takeoff, over Sagami Bay, a mysterious sound came from inside the aircraft, and at the same time, a hole occurred in the very back tail section. The passengers, who until now were very excited, their excitement turned into fear in the blink of an eye. Because, due to the hole, noise started inside the cabin and loose items began to be pulled rapidly toward that hole. All this happened so fast that it was difficult even to get an idea of what actually happened. The sound was so loud that it was heard in the cockpit as well. In the cockpit voice recorder, this sound was felt something like this. Here, it is important to know that as the plane goes to altitude, the outside air starts becoming thin. To counter this, artificial pressure is filled inside the cabin, almost equal to the atmospheric pressure on the ground. Which means that at 24,000 feet, outside pressure is low, and inside the cabin pressure is high. And this higher air pressure continuously pushes on the cabin walls from inside. The plane's cabin is kept completely airtight so that this artificial pressure cannot leak in any way. But if even a small part of the cabin is weak, then the air pressure can tear that place and create a hole, because of which the cabin's artificial pressure will end and the passenger's health can deteriorate. Apart from this, due to low oxygen level, there can also be difficulty in breathing. Something similar had also happened in Japan Air 123. But till now, both the pilots did not have knowledge of this. In the cockpit voice recorder, they were heard talking to each other, in which sometimes they talked about the landing gear door breaking, and sometimes they thought that perhaps this sound came from the engine. But the reality was that the very rear part of the fuselage had separated from the aircraft. At the same time, it also blew away the rudder. Due to the tail of the fuselage bursting, now pressure will not be able to be maintained in the cabin. The rudder, which is installed on the tail, its separation means that the aircraft is now going out of control of both pilots. The job of the rudder is to control the direction of the aircraft. When an aircraft takes a turn, it is called roll movement. Moving nose up or nose down is called pitch. The horizontal left-right direction of the nose is called yaw movement. In simple words, Japan Air 123, at about 24,000 feet, due to not having the rudder, will not be able to turn properly, and while landing also, will not be able to align itself with the runway. But an even bigger danger than this is that both pilots have no information about the rudder coming off. The aircraft was no longer stable like before, and it started swinging left and right on its own. Controlling this was not within the capability of the autopilot. A person below saw the movement of the aircraft and felt something was wrong, then took a photo. In that photo, it is clearly visible that a part of the rudder is missing from the tail. Both pilots had still not understood anything, but the cabin crew were heard making an announcement, instructing the passengers to sit on their seats, fastening their belts. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, when the captain felt the situation was wrong, he first set the transponder frequency to 703, which is a universal distress signal. That means now all control towers will come to know that Japan Air 123 is in emergency. The captain decided that the aircraft should be landed back in Tokyo. But will the plane be able to do that? First of all, he informed the control tower about the emergency and asked permission to land back in Tokyo. The control tower gave the captain permission to take a 90 turn and land in Tokyo. The first officer, who was on the controls, turned the plane to the right at exactly a 40 angle. But both pilots became even more terrified on seeing that the plane's angle was much more than 40. At this moment, the captain shouted to the first officer to reduce the bank angle, but the angle did not reduce in any condition. The co-pilot tried again and again, but the plane was not responding to any of his inputs. Meanwhile, the flight engineer, both the pilots were informed that the hydraulic pressure was decreasing rapidly, and within moments it dropped to zero. That was the point when all three crew members realized the plane had now gone out of their control. All aircraft controls, like ailerons for turns, elevators for pitch, and flaps for speed, cannot be moved by hand during flight, especially when wind of 1,000 kilometers per hour is hitting from the front. They are moved with the help of hydraulic pressure. The tail of Japan Air 123 that had broken off had also torn apart some hydraulic pipes along with it. That was the reason why the aircraft's entire hydraulic pressure was lost, and the cockpit controls were left like mere showpieces. At an altitude of 24,000 feet, Japan Air 123 had already fallen victim to several problems. Cabin pressure had been lost. Oxygen masks had deployed. Due to the loss of hydraulic pressure, its controls had become useless. And the most dangerous thing was that now passengers and pilots began to suffer from hypoxia due to low pressure. Hypoxia is the condition in which, due to a decrease in the body's oxygen level, confusion occurs. Making decisions becomes difficult. Movements become slow, and a person can even become unconscious. Meanwhile, the cabin crew was heard making an announcement to put on oxygen masks. Japan Air 123 was frightening passengers by making severe roll movements. Both pilots now had control of only one thing left: the engine controls. The captain tried to bring the plane out of the roll movement using only the engine controls. If the aircraft had to be turned right, then the power of the left side engines had to be increased. and if it had to be turned left, then the power of the right side engines had to be increased. Similarly, during roll movement, when the aircraft banks to the right, it can be straightened again by increasing the power of the right engines. Using this method, the pilots managed to gain considerable control over the aircraft's roll movement. Now, their only mission was to land the aircraft back at Tokyo Airport as soon as possible. But before that, the aircraft had to be brought closer to the ground so that cabin pressure could increase. This task, elevators do come in use, but now, due to no hydraulic pressure, they were lying useless. Therefore, the captain suggested lowering the landing gear. This creates extra drag, reducing speed. But the gear also needs hydraulic pressure. The captain decided to open it with its own weight, and luckily they opened. At 6:45, Japan Air 123 circled above Otsuki. Its altitude dropped from 24,000 to 13,500 feet. A big success. In the cabin, pressure and oxygen stabilized. Yet, the danger was far from over. They needed to turn right towards Tokyo. Turning with only engine controls proved extremely difficult for the pilots. Increasing thrust would pitch the nose up, decreasing speed. Too little speed meant a potential stall. Unintentionally, the aircraft entered Japan's mountainous region. Turning towards Tokyo at low altitude seemed impossible. At 6:48, the captain urged the first officer, "Turn right. There is a mountain ahead." Precise turning was impossible. Many alarms blared in the cockpit. The aircraft was far from Tokyo, over mountains, at only 6,800 feet. Just minutes later, at 6:54 p.m., the captain's panic was clearly audible in his voice. Then finally, after 2 minutes, some such sounds were recorded in the cockpit. Japan Air's plane collided with a mountain. In this accident, only 4 people could survive, who were sitting on the left side in the center of the cabin. All the remaining crew and passengers lost their lives in this terrible accident. In investigation, it was found that 7 years earlier, while landing the tail of this same aircraft had struck the runway. After that, for many weeks, the aircraft remained on ground for repairing, and Boeing's technicians worked on it. In investigation, it was found that the technicians had installed the splice plate of the tail in a wrong way. The investigators calculated and told this faulty repair cabin can pressurize only up to 11,000 cycles. Japan Air 123 had handled 12,500 cycles, and on this very day it could not withstand that pressure. After this accident, investigators gave the same conditions to 4 different pilots in a flight simulator, but all 4 pilots crashed the plane. No pilot was able to keep the plane in the air for as long as Japan Air 123 did. This is quite surprising because the pilots sitting in the simulator had 2 big advantages. First, they already knew what the problem was. And second, they had the comfort in their minds that they would not lose their lives. Considering these conditions, it would not be wrong to say that both pilots of Japan Air 123 tried to control the aircraft until their last breath, and kept it in the air for 45 minutes. Please like and share the video. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next video.